to be a a vertical finish. So what would you call it? The fascia? Would it be something
Yes,
like that?
correct.
Yes. So that was to be the horizontal natural cedar horizontal boards. The existing siding was vertical. Since that time, and that was approved that way, and they agreed to just leave it natural. It was going to be power washed and left a natural, and possibly with a sort of a natural light stain. Since that time, the applicant has proceeded with construction, and horizontal cedar siding was installed. So you're before us today to make that modification, to change from the vertical cedar siding to horizontal cedar siding. You can see here in this picture, the rear of the building still has the vertical. That was power washed, and then you can see to the left of it where the windows are, and there are other pictures that show the horizontal siding installed. There's the horizontal, and you can see a little portion to the left there on the left corner of the vertical.
Right.
And the applicant requests this modification as more aesthetically pleasing. So, I think it's fine.
Okay.
I drove by it several times today. It looks great.
Yeah, I think it looks good too.
I mean, I think then it's more consistent with the rest of the approved modification to the roof. So,
Okay. Mr. Gualtieri, do you have anything to add or any questions?
No, that's
Okay.
it.
So I do have one question, which is, when this came up for signage, we approved the signage, but we didn't approve the light fixture.
that's correct.
So the light fixture is, even though it's on the drawing, we're not approving that.
Where, oh, you're seeing this on the application
Seeing it
somewhere?
on the elevations
Seeing on
here.
the elevations.
So I
No,
just
the
want to
sign,
make clear that
in
we're
fact,
not approving the
There's
light
a-
fixture.
There's
Light
another
fixture.
photo. The sign is installed.
Sign's
Yeah.
nice.
The applicant has, as requested, applied for the administrative lighting permit. And that's discussed at the moment still.
Okay, so that's not part of this.
Yeah, if you
Would you mind?
That'd be great.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Eric. This is Eric Shantz. He's the Assistant Planning Director, and he's
Yeah, okay.
here to explain the administrative lighting permit.
Thank you. I didn't
Right.
need to introduce myself.
Hey, I don't know if everybody knows who you are.
We do have an application for an administrative lighting permit. It's solely for the lighting of the sign. We received the application form, a submission with the fixture that I believe was in the packet of information that the ARB received. The fixture is not compliant with the town code. We notified the applicant, I believe 5 days after we received the application. I've also spoke with them on the phone. We've had some email correspondence. Basically, they need to choose a fixture that has a lesser light intensity, but we'll work that out through the administrative lighting
Okay,
process.
great.
So,
All right, good.
So I'm unclear. Is that the same fixture that we had reviewed the last time then?
It was in pieces and we wanted one continuous.
Exactly. So we weren't in favor of that fixture to begin with anyway. So on top of it, it was too intense.
yes.
Yeah, the lighting, yeah, it doesn't, it's,
You'd advise them to the correct one.
Well, not to the correct one because I can't choose the light fixture for anyone.
Yeah.
But I
The
sent out
correct
an
intensity.
incomplete, yeah, exactly. And I'm willing to work with anyone.
yeah, Mr. Gualtieri, you or Ms. Alessi can call the planning department and they'll be happy to help you guide you through that process.
Got it.
And I think this email chain has indicated that they've begun that process with you, and that it's really just a matter of picking a compliant fixture.
But an approval tonight will allow them to proceed to the next milestone.
We are not approving the lighting.
No,
We're
I get
yeah.
that, but the siding.
Yes.
Yeah.
Siding, yes. No, we're approving the modification to the siding that was approved already last year.
Okay.
Because you've modified, that, but the lighting is still an open question.
Got it.
Okay?
Okay, thank you very much.
All right. Well, we need to make a motion, right? Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the application for modification as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
Thank you.
now it's official. Thank you. Okay, next up is number 4, Center Cuts. This is for a business sign, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-197-2-18. Hi, how are you?
Hello. Good, how are you?
Can you remind me of your name?
Jean Galante, Land Planning.
Okay, Jean Galante. Okay, this is the representative for this application, and Diane, this is you.
Yes, this is an application for a
Photos,
business
right?
sign.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just wanted Will to pull up the photos if he could. You can go ahead.
Okay, this is an application. It sounds simple enough for a business sign, a 24 square foot business sign. And the change of color of the awning. But this is in a very recognizable stretch of a commercial space in Wainscott, where the business owners have come together, including Dr. Davis over there, have come together and established this harmonious blue, pleasing exterior. And what is being suggested here is to change the middle store, is the store in question, is to change that awning to white with a large red steer on the awning. The sign, the 24 square foot sign is in keeping with the Wainscott Hardware and the other sign, but it's white. This is what they want. With these 2 gigantic signage decals on the windows, one of which is there already, which it was so much traffic and everything when I was there, I didn't measure it, but it's huge. So
Options are on there, I think.
between the window signage and the sign itself, it would be extend way beyond our allowable 32 square feet. And I think losing this harmonious, pleasing quality that these business owners have come together and created here would be incompatible, extremely incompatible. So I'd like to know everyone else's comment, but I'm afraid I could never approve this application.
In terms of the white or
in
with
terms of
everything else that's going along with it?
The lights are fine.
No, the
No,
white.
The white.
The white,
The white.
yeah, the white awning with the red animal and the huge window decals, I think are.
Yeah,
I
when he
just think-
first proposed it, he did not realize the decals would count towards the square footage of the overall signage. He didn't think the decals would
Can you
count
speak
toward-
more,
Oh, he didn't
can
think it
speak into the
counted. Well, it
microphone? That
does
would help.
count.
Yeah,
It
that's
does
helpful.
count. And one of them, now I wasn't there today, but yesterday, one of them is already in place and
It
covers
has
the
been, yeah.
whole window. And that does count as signage.
Yes, I'm aware it does. And he's been informed now that it does, but he wanted to see what your thoughts on it were.
Well, at 24 square feet, you're allowed 8 more square feet. So any additional signage from the
Yes, yeah.
the rectangular main sign cannot exceed 8 square feet.
Right, because we've got 24 when it comes to the sign itself.
The sign itself is 24 square feet and you're only allowed to have 32 square feet. So
Correct, yes.
anything that is in the window would have to be really considerably smaller. And as far as disrupting this harmony of these blue awnings, I think it would be a shame. I
Yeah,
really
they felt
think it-
strongly about that because that's their branding and
Well, I mean, they would have it
where
on
they
their
have it other
sign.
stores.
Fine meats, would be white with red.
Yeah.
I don't know, does anybody?
I agree,
No,
Diane.
like to
It-
comment?
It's chaotic enough in Wainscott with all sorts of stuff going on. Anything we can do to make it uniform and a little bit more pleasing is a plus.
And as sympathetic as I am to the branding, I will say that the town has a history of, I was out in Montauk yesterday or Tuesday, and I always forget that there's a 7-Eleven out there because the sign on the 7-Eleven is about this big, We've really made an effort to control, we allow people to have their branding, but they can't have it the way they're accustomed to having it in, a mall in New Jersey, so we have to we have to maintain those standards. And the other thing I think is important for him to understand is that the decal or the logo or whatever the steer it also contributes to this, the square footage that is part of your signage, so the whole thing is like way over, unfortunately. So it's going to have to make some choices about which parts he wants to keep.
Right, so that's what we had discussed, that 32 was our number. The sign itself is 24. The steer, which again is on
The awning.
target for their brand on the awning, I think that comes to 18. So the 18 and the 24 is to 42. So we'd still need to cut the size of the steer down if the steer was able to stay on the
If you chose the steer over the other,
On the
Over the
windows
window
too, the
decal.
fine
Over the
meats would
window
be added to part of
decals.
it as well.
I'm
I mean-
sorry, David?
In the window decals, would say fine meats, that would be part of it
right,
as well.
I think what we're looking at
Right,
here
the
is
decals for sure, we understand.
decals will have to be removed. And then if I'm understanding that correctly, the curated fine meat sign is 24 square feet.
Correct.
So you can do whatever you want with the extra 8 square feet, but
That's all you have.
that's all you have.
And would we be able to discuss further the possibility of keeping the white awning with the steer to keep it in keeping with their brand?
I would say no.
We just said no.
I mean, the board can vote on it if that's what you want.
I don't know
You
if
could
any-
ask to poll the board maybe?
Well, I mean, Frank, how do you feel about that?
I'd say nothing on the awning, keep it blue,
Okay.
no logos
Yeah,
or anything.
I think the board is unanimous in its opposition to the white.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I understand the
And
branding thing,
anything
but,
going on the
yeah,
awning too, I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
is-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of the rare occasions where 4 separate
Right.
business owners have come together to create this
Harmony.
A
Yeah.
uniform look.
Cool.
you know,
Harmony.
in the midst of a very chaotic
Right.
highway.
True.
And I think to disrupt that would I think curated fine meats would be much better served to
Mhm.
stay within this.
Okay, now, as Ron's
Pleasing.
and Kathleen had also mentioned, your feeling is nothing on the awning, whether it's a blue awning or a white awning. Is that what you just said?
Yes, I think we've all said
Yes.
that. Yeah.
Point out that there is writing on the awning over there to the left.
Yeah, but that's a whole separate building. I'm really actually looking
Yeah, we're
exclusively
looking
at
at
this
this,
one.
this
Yeah.
building as a 3-unit kind of, cluster there that has its own specific identity. I mean, that ivy is nice, it's a little bit, it looks nicer than most of the buildings, most of the commercial stuff that we have around here. So I think we're trying to maintain that general look. I would ask you not to do that. You could put it in the window, put the steer in the
Put the
window.
steer in the
I mean,
window.
I think,
And-
to be honest with you, I have 20/20 vision and I can't tell what that meat sign says. I would know a steer in the window, so if that's what you're trying to do. Maybe that's the thing.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
well.
if
we
you
will
can do that in
regroup.
8 square feet,
And
go in
then
peace.
the-
Okay.
One other thing that we had identified in the submissions was the benches that are in the renderings.
Oh, thanks for
Um,
reminding me
So
about that. Yeah.
if those are in the right of way, kind of, that we just want more information about those because that might be something that needs to go through planning or
Oh, thank you for reminding me about that, David. Yeah, if the benches are meant to accommodate, is this, people going to be, they're going to be selling sandwiches and that sort of thing?
I
You don't know.
I don't think it's a retail to sit down. I mean, I think it's a retail to go, not an in.
Right. I mean, because if it is, then we would probably recommend you go to site plan because that would be that'd be a
Okay,
change
yeah,
in use.
I don't know anything about the benches, so I'll
Yeah.
find out about
Well,
that.
and that was in addition. So, and David brought that up today and I have it written down here. I just didn't remember to ask you about it, but it would be good to find out from your client.
Okay.
Because if that's the case, then you'll probably have to go to site plan.
All right,
All right. Thank you.
thanks.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to mix this up again because our dear Chip has to leave for a memorial service shortly. So I'm going to we're going to do his 2, I forgot if they're fences or gates applications, and then we'll go back to the regular order. So thank you, everyone, for bearing with this rather chaotic agenda today. All right, so Andrew Walsh, is Mr. Walsh or, okay,
Yes.
great. Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-39-6-4. Okay, Chip.
Well, would you bring up the photos? So this is an application to fence in the backyard of a roughly half-acre lot in the Clearwater Beach section. Currently, there is a 6-foot-high stockade fence across the back property line. That's the back property line with the existing stockade fence. The applicant proposes to fence in the backyard with a combination of vertical board fencing and deer fencing, sort of alternating depending on how much screening he wants to do of the neighbors on either side. The fencing proposed is 6 foot high, but on the plan submitted, there's different dimensions on the height, so that needs to be resolved. There would be 2 gates on either side of the front facade of the house leading to the backyard. There are drawings on that. Will you see those drawings? That's the survey. The drawings were submitted late. Drawings could be clearer and need to be larger in order to fully understand the proposed fences and gates. The only issue that I have with the fencing in general is that to the left of the house, and the house, which would be the upper left-hand corner of what we're looking at, they propose putting an arc of the fencing coming out in front of the front facade of the house and making a semicircle and then curving back. I discussed with Andrew that we're unlikely to approve a 6-foot fence that's arced in the front of the yard. But I'll let Andrew chime in and talk about it.
Sure. First of all, certainly appreciate the time today. I think what was mentioned at the beginning of the meeting certainly rings true in our consideration of this project. One is we've taken into consideration the character of the structure, what it would do for the neighborhood. We've given great consideration to also the materials that would be used, as well as thinking about the imposition on the neighbors, as well as what it looks like. It's hard to see from this drawing, but the road does curve slightly, and the neighbors that adjoin us, particularly to the, I'd say in this picture, to the upper portion, their line of sight would be impacted adversely if we were to do a full 6-foot fence along that border. As a result, what we worked with an architect to do was try and find a way to fulfill our goal of safety for our 2 young children in terms of enclosing the fence, keeping out deer that are persistent throughout the neighborhood due to the risks associated with Lyme disease, and finally, also due to privacy and prying eyes. I have 2 very young children, 3 and 3 months respectively, 3 years old and 3 months respectively, who enjoy getting in a small play pool in the backyard. So there's a number of factors to take into consideration here. And I've also spoken with both my neighbors on my left side and my right side regarding the fence, and both have been supportive of the proposed design. What the semicircle does, it actually does a number of things. One is, if you notice where the entrance takes place, that little A marking, it allows you to have a nice entrance coming from the driveway into that area. In addition, what it also does is the neighbor's view, in their road drawing submit, although I will admit on the later side, is their line of sight in terms of the impact of the fence is lessened. Also, we found that this structure, in terms of the curvature of it, is aesthetically pleasing to the eye. It is vertical wood boards that would be there. And finally, you can't really tell from this, but the road, Rutland, actually kind of starts to curve around at that point. So unfortunately, we don't have a situation where we have folks are able to just look in from the front. We also have a lot of prying eyes that come from the side. So there's a number of reasons that have really gone into this. And I think what we've done is we've tried to really uphold the ideals of openness and being able to see through. What's not really appreciated here in this rendering, unfortunately, is we've actually recommended that portions of the fence on either neighbor's side are left generally open with deer fencing to allow for that feeling of openness through to our neighbors, because we have good relationships and we appreciate them, while trying to enjoy some privacy as a result of putting up higher fences in the rear and 6-foot fences in front. As far as I understand the code, it is certainly within your wherewithal to approve a 6-foot tall fence in the front. I understand if it were 4 feet or less, there would be no need for approval. That's why I've come before you today, to try and gain that approval for the 6 feet in the front. And to the rear of our property, unfortunately, we've had our neighbors clear cut their entire backyard. It was a beautiful backyard before with nice, tall, lush trees, and it afforded us a great sense of privacy back there. And as a result, we need to raise the fence to be 8 feet tall to account for those things. So I think what we've done today is we've tried to present something that is certainly fitting and harmonious with the neighborhood, is fitting with the code that has the town has established, as well as trying to do something that will enhance the effect in the neighborhood rather than detract from it. So with that, I would certainly, like to move forward with this project. I think it is one that will actually, raise the character of the neighborhood, and it's also very fitting that I've consulted with the neighbors and they're on board with it.
So, Will, can you bring up his drawings that were submitted yesterday? They're tiny slat-like things.
Is there a gate as well?
Yes.
And is the gate shown on the survey?
There are no existing gates, but yes, the gate is shown on that survey. It was where the little A's were marked and highlighted.
They're on either
On that survey
side
that
of the
we're-
front facade of the house, one in the semicircle and one on a straight line.
Here we go. So here's the
yeah.
actual drawings themselves in terms of the elevations.
So I think the problem, Andrew, with these drawings are that we can't even
Well,
comprehend.
I think you can just zoom in on it. The clarity is very good since they're high quality PDFs. So you can zoom in even farther if you'd like on it.
So you're proposing a black fence?
No, it's wood.
fence.
It's just the
Is
color
it
of the
solid
ink.
wood?
No,
Plank.
it's planks that would be a butt against each other.
Right, so it's solid.
Yes, it is solid.
Oh, okay. So
Well,
there's
in
no
the rear-
transparency in the fence.
In the rear, it is solid. On portions of the side, this is deer fence along these portions.
Mhm.
And if you scroll down, and I do apologize for submitting them late. I think there's some misunderstanding in what was exactly needed. There are really a few different types of fencing that are proposed. Some are completely joined together like this. There are others that have space in between them apart, and there are portions of this fence that are completely deer fence that are open.
How do we know which is which?
Yeah,
It's in the legend.
it's marked on the survey, but it's confusing. I don't think we can really understand these drawings.
Yeah.
Right here.
No, but
There. So slatted, right? Space between, deer fence, solid fence.
Right. So I understand that now. What we'll need is a sample of the fence drawn out individually on pages and not contiguous on this survey as it's done. Because excuse me, sir, I'm speaking.
I'm sorry.
Because we can't, it's very hard to visualize what you're proposing. We also need to know, in the instance where there are vertical slats, what the width of the slat is and what the width of the space is.
Okay.
And we'll need to know, when you say,
gates.
excuse me?
Gates.
Gates, yep, what the size, the dimensions of the gates are. And they will need to be, can someone show him a copy of what gate usually, because he doesn't seem to understand what we need, what the gates usually look like. We get a
There
rendering
are gate drawings within this package.
of a gate. Right. But what
You have
we're,
Something like this.
yeah, something like that.
Oh,
where it's-
here we
There
go.
it is. Okay.
Okay,
That's
so
what
we
you're
didn't see that.
Sorry, we didn't.
And that's the gate?
in
And
the-
that's 6 feet tall?
Oh, so the gate is within the fencing?
Yes.
Yeah, on either side of the front of the house, there's going to be a gate.
Okay.
But we need the dimension, I mean, there's no dimensions on this. It needs to be presented as an architectural plan,
Right.
not a little here, a little there.
Right.
And it has to have dimensions and it has to have what the materials are.
What is that thing about? Is
So-
this all just a PDF? It's all on the same page?
Oh, the little thing at the very
Yeah,
top?
yeah.
I guess those are the posts and the.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So we know the height of the gate. It's the width that we're missing, right? Is that
We
the
need
concern?
all the dimensions. The dimensions of the gate should be depicted for the gate, and the dimensions of the fence should be depicted for the fence and dimensionally drawn in, and also on the survey, because I know the survey that I have
Yeah.
It's difficult to read. Well, it's
Yeah,
the
I think
same
you have to
one,
mark
yeah.
where there's three, if you were building one fence, it would be easier.
way
You're
easier.
using three types of material here. So you're going to have to specify in things we can actually see. This is going to be the vertical fence, this is going to be the vertical fence with the slats, and this is going to be the deer fence. So you
Right.
just, I mean,
Is the legend is insufficient on this drawing?
I was gonna say, here's sort of a legal reason why you need it, which is the
Sure.
building inspector is gonna go out there and say, okay, did they build, or we're gonna go, and for the CO, is it built according to what was approved?
Sure.
So if there are no dimensions from point A to point B where there are three types of fence, someone's gonna say, I mean, you could build something that's quite
Vastly
different. So there has to be, that's why things need to be just dimensioned, is to say, okay, it's 20 feet this way and then it's 30 feet. So it would help but it needed to be called out on the survey, like X amount of feet, linear feet is this type A,
Right.
type B is here from here to here.
Right. I mean, I think that we should have a discussion over whether we want to encourage Mr. Walsh to put in a fence that's so varying in style and size around his whole property. I thank you for your considerate work with your neighbors and, moving on this, but the 8-foot solid wall fence in the back, I mean, generally, I've worked for the town for a long time. I was 7 years on the planning board, and I've never heard anyone worry about prying eyes until you brought that phrase up right now. So this isn't a community that, walls people out. And I understand that you had a lush vista in the rear of your yard, but I would hesitate to, I wouldn't be able to approve a solid 8-foot fence back there. So if you wanted something that high, which you can do, I would ask you to make it more transparent. I don't think that you need to have it completely solid to get the kind of privacy that you're looking for. And that might then wrap around to the side so you'll have some consistency in the fencing. And then if you still want to put deer fence on the side with your neighbor, I guess you could do that. I think I'm not sure that is uniform enough to make it visually appealing. But I'd like to hear what my other colleagues have to say.
I think the arc in the front is a little bit of an issue, this 6-foot-high fence that arcs out. I mean, we generally don't approve 6-foot-high fences in the front yard.
Right.
And is that, I'm trying to understand the rationale as I go
To
back.
keep the front yards open and clear and so there's a clean vista, not fencing jutting into the front yard.
Sure, but this is a delineation between the front and the rear of the yard, this fence.
Yeah, we understand.
There's a
that.
front yard and there's a rear yard. Your arc is going into the front yard. I'll tell you where I stand on this. I wouldn't want to see any fence above 6 feet. If you want to pursue the arc, and I would say either push it back to the front of the arc is no closer to the street than the house, but I don't think you're going to like that because it's kind of awkward relationship with a house. I mean, if you want to pursue a 4-foot fence of the arched fence, I might consider it. But I think your best bet is to just do a 6-foot fence instead. That is the same distance from the street as the one on the other side of the house. So it's kind of a clean, you read it as a clean backyard. I mean, generally speaking, we don't approve fences above 4 feet that are closer to the street than the house. It's kind of the
Rule of thumb.
Front of the
rule of
facade.
thumb.
Yeah, I guess it was difficult to ascertain that from reading the code and working with the architect because what is noted is 4 feet, that 6 is allowable.
It's allowable at our
Sure,
discretion.
Yeah.
In the
Correct,
front yard.
correct, and that's
Yeah.
why I present it to you today. Suppose the challenge that we're having is, a few things with it. One is, I find quite honestly, straight linear fences to be quite harsh. The goal with this was to soften it and make it more appealing. There's also a large tree there that it would wrap very close to that adds to the aesthetic. So there's a lot of actual, I'll say, thought that went into the why it was designed in that manner. Certainly appreciate everybody's, considerations regarding that aspect of it. And as it pertains to the privacy, it's, to me, I see plenty of people that use other means to gain privacy, whether it's hedges, foliage. And so, I would certainly ask for reconsideration on, the 8 feet in the rear, given that, the neighbor's driveway comes right up there, shines light right through. They have a 2-story house.
Why don't you plant some hedges in the back and leave that stockade fence exactly where it is?
That's certainly it's certainly a possibility.
I think you have so many things going on in your proposal, 3 different kinds of fencing, an arc in the front yard. I mean, this thing needs to be simplified and made more consistent.
Okay.
And if you want to block out, I see what happened with the neighbor clear cutting it, but most people would put up evergreens and create an evergreen hedge. They're not under restrictions, but the fencing is under restrictions.
Sure. So what about keeping the 6 feet in the back? That seems, I feel like there are other ways to solve for that problem, as you pointed out. However, with the consistency, would you reconsider a 6 foot, that curved fence at 6 feet tall? Since we're trying to, the consistency aspect of it seems to be a sticking point. That way we could at least have uniformity in both the rear and the front.
Well, you can have uniformity with the 6 foot fence, but I don't think any of us like the arc into the front yard, and I don't think that's going to fly.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you want the arc, you'll have to take Member Guittard's recommendation on that, to push it back toward.
Or go behind the tree.
Go behind the tree. I think
Behind the tree instead of in front of the
Right.
tree.
If you really want that arc, because I think it protrudes, it's a little out of balance, and it's not, we don't have curved fences. It's just not part of the aesthetic that we're trying to promote. So
Sure.
I don't mean to
Visualize
offend you.
anyway, really.
It is hard to visualize. I mean, my recommendation would be to see if you can get us a survey that's a little more workable and provide us with the samples, with that I was asking about, where you have the slat, the measurements of the slats and the spaces, the measurements of the spaces
Sure.
between the slats.
Sure.
And then maybe revise where you're going to put this fencing, or as Member Ray has recommended, just keep the rear. It's one less thing for you to buy if you're going to invest money and put the greenery in. It will look nice.
Sure.
And it'll provide the kind of screening and privacy that you seem to be seeking. And then come back to us with a different a more specific proposal for these other fenced areas. Because I don't think we can't approve this tonight. So we're going to.
Is there any, when you talk about the front boundary of the house, is there any give beyond what I'll say that plane that is across the front of the house in terms of where the fence would lie?
I don't think I understand your question. What do you mean?
What I'm
give?
saying is,
I think we need to.
it arches out, right? Is there any ability to go beyond the front of the house with fencing at all?
The fencing height restriction is that it's 50 feet from the edge of the pavement becomes the side yard.
50 feet. So if it were 50 feet back,
Yeah.
Yes.
then it would be considered side yard, not front yard.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's why we're
that's our
suggesting to
leeway.
push it back. That's what we're
Okay.
saying. If you're determined to have the arc,
It's got to be 50
it's
feet
got to
back.
be 50 feet back.
Okay.
Yes. And we
That's
can't really
helpful.
tell that
And
from
we
the
can't tell
survey.
it from the survey.
No, not on
It may
this.
always-
It is
may
on another
already
drawing.
be,
It
but I
goes
don't
up
know,
to
'cause
about
if this is-
42 feet back.
63 feet
So
from the
there is
house.
some,
Road.
so there's some,
You have a little leeway there to push it
there
back.
may be
a bit.
some room there
He's got
to
depict
play
it.
with.
Yeah.
We can't estimate.
It sounds like everybody's very steadfast in there.
We're pretty uniform, I think,
Okay.
in the opinion here. I'm
Okay.
sorry, it's not what you want, but we're trying to
Sure.
work with you
Revisit
and the
it,
committee.
yeah.
Just come back with, take another look.
Sure.
And if you can just measure, show us on the survey what the distance from the front property line to that arc.
Well, we
you know,
need
that-
an actual survey that plots that out. No?
Yeah, well, that's where I was headed.
Sure.
Sorry, yeah, didn't get there yet.
More measurements.
Yeah, and from the
By the
surveyor.
surveyor.
It needs to be done by the surveyor. You can't just measure it
There
and
can't be-
pencil it in.
The architect cannot provide the
No,
measurements.
it must be a surveyor.
It has to be a surveyor that
Yes.
provides the measurements.
And
Okay.
then if you would also provide us with the dimensions and, a sample of the gate style and the fence styles that you're proposing. That way we can, you don't have to bring in a piece of it, but you've got to
The design.
give us the design
Illustrate.
of it and
Okay.
and with those demands. And we'll send you a follow-up letter that'll include some of this
Okay.
information so you can,
Okay.
you'll have a checklist, okay?
That's wonderful.
All
Thank you
right,
for your
great.
time this evening.
Sure thing. You have a good night. Thanks. Okay, we're going to take next out of order for Chip's benefit, Mark and Linda Sussman, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-134-3-7. That's number 8 on our agenda. Is our Mr. and Mrs. Are you Mr. Sussman? Welcome, Mr. Sussman.
Thank you. So this is
Okay.
a 2.1 acre flag lot off the far end, the north end of 2 holes of water. The applicant seeks approval for an existing white vinyl fence, which you see here, which is off the parking area, creates like a parking court. It's behind the front facade of the house. And they also seek approval of deer fencing, which encloses part of the backyard. The vinyl fence is 50 feet long and it's in an L shape, and it varies in height from 7 to 7.5 feet, depending on the grade. It creates a nice parking courtyard and provides access through a gate to a pair of gates to the backyard. It is nicely done. The deer fencing joins into this fence on the left and doesn't occupy the entire backyard. It makes an arc, and there's a passageway for deer to travel behind the deer fence and till you get to their property line. Deer fence is 7.5 feet tall, 584 feet long, professionally installed. There's also a 4-foot high wire fence butts up against the deer fence. I think it was there earlier, according to your wife. There's not a problem, but it's a 4-foot fence on a 7.5-foot fence. I have no issue with the application. Do you want to talk about it, Mr. Sussman?
I think you've summarized it really well, Mr. Ray.
Okay, it's nicely done. The yard is professional. Everything's professionally done. The fencing, that fence does not seem as high. It does not look as high as it is. It looks higher. I mean, it doesn't look very high. It's 7 and 7.5 feet, but it's behind the front facade of the house.
Oh, I see.
We have a
Okay.
survey because I wasn't quite situated on the property.
We
so
have a survey, yes. You want to see it?
This looks like a garage, right?
That is the garage. It abuts the garage.
That's garage right here. You want to see this?
It's easy to see it. Oh, it's way back here.
It's a flag
I
lot
see.
way off of
Okay,
here.
so it's. off the
So this
street.
fencing is right here.
Oh, okay.
And this is a circular drive, and this goes
So
around
this
the
is the
garage.
little parking court.
Yeah, and then this is the deer fencing, that line,
I
see,
see.
they created. I mean, I have no issue with what they did.
It's not even visible from the road.
No one will ever see this. No one will ever see the deer fence.
I'm not a fan of the 7 feet, to be
I'm not
honest with
either,
you,
but-
but. Obviously, it was installed without permissions because it's.
It's been there a while, right?
Yeah, we weren't aware. We apologize. We just
Yeah,
weren't aware of
yeah.
the code.
And there's a pool in the back, beautifully landscaped. I mean, they protected the deer. They protect the landscaping from the deer, and it's well done.
Does anybody have any questions or comments about this?
Okay. So then I make a motion to approve the vinyl fencing and the deer fencing on this property in the application as submitted.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so you're good to go,
Thank you.
Mr. Sussman.
Oh, Mr. Sussman must be so.
And Chip, you may.
Go.
you are
Thank you
free
so
to
much.
go.
Thank
Good
you so
luck
much.
with
Thank
your
you.
Service, Chip. We'll miss you, but duty calls. Okay, so next up is Thomas Fantini. Thank you for your tolerance with our jumping agenda. Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-168-7-34. Diane, this is yours.
Yes, this is an application for a driveway gate that normally we would probably ask for some relief because it's a white gate. It is fully 6 feet. The pillars are 6'7" but it is in an extremely vulnerable part of Montauk Highway. This is, the address is 111 Montauk Highway. It's right across from Coach A and the physical therapy place. It's a highly trafficked. Okay, I'm standing right on the edge of the highway, and you can see it's very, very close to the highway. We should see the other pictures, Will, please. And I've passed by it 3 or 4 times. It's always open whenever I've passed by it.
So why do you need it?
It's a manual gate. It's not an automated gate. I basically relocated it when I purchased the property 5 years ago. It was existing in the back, and what would happen is that it's a common driveway, so there was a house in the back, and they would park, and we would come together in the back, and I would actually have to back out onto Montauk Highway. So that was the reason why it got shifted. When I purchased the property 5 years ago, obviously I went through lawyers and attorney, and I didn't realize it wasn't allowed or approved. So when I moved it, I thought, well, it's existing when I moved it, and I thought everything would be fine. So I didn't really realize that.
A common theory, yeah. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Oh,
I do close it at night to try and keep deer out.
the highway has no one on it, which is very unusual.
Not in winter, which is when that is.
This is a winter stop. Right, thank you, Frank. That's very helpful.
That is.
Okay. Did you have anything?
What?
I just was encouraging you to tell us more.
To tell you more, well, I don't know what else there is to say. You know, I'm tending to let it, because of the circumstances, you know, I'm tending to say it's okay.
So I'm just trying to picture this. This is as you approach Amagansett going east on the left.
Yes.
And you've got the old church.
Now I'm standing in front of the house now.
Right, yes.
Right.
And then you're basically entering sort of historical Amagansett, where you, like, it's that curve, right? Where this gas station is.
No, it's
No?
before.
Is it way before? Okay.
No. And it's on the north side.
Yeah, I said on the left.
On the north.
Just
Okay.
before Windmill Lane is your.
Exactly,
coming into
that's
the
what I
village.
mean. So you're right there with
Next to
where
the
Miss
old
Amelia's
21
cottage
house or
is,
whatever it
right?
used to be. I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Where the little historical compound is, the Miss
No,
Amelia's.
Amelia, it's a
Before-
bit farther
it's
back than that.
Before the, what do they call it now? The Reform Club.
Reform Club.
Randy.
That's what I mean, but that's the
It's right
approach.
before
That's-
the Reform Club, right?
Well, there's another, what used to be the old 21 house, if you remember that, on the corner of Windmill Lane and Main Street. I'm one west of that. I'm one house west of that.
Okay, so you're basically 2-3 houses away from Windmill Lane.
2.
To me, it seems that because the gate doesn't directly face the street, it faces this sort of at steep angle, if not the
yes.
side,
Mhm.
that we're really considering sort of like a side fence gate, as opposed to something that's
Yes, it's not
really
Directly
fronting
fronts the
Montauk
property. Yeah,
Highway.
right.
So that's why I'm more comfortable with it.
Well, I wish it was shorter. You know, sympathize with your desire for a gate, but I feel like it's really, and because it's white, it's so prominent, but I could be convinced to leave it just because I wish it was, and I wish it was a little more transparent. You know, I think that what I just said to the previous applicant, you know, we're not trying to wall things off here. I understand that you live off Montauk Highway, but that's how it is on Montauk Highway, you know, so
Understood.
we can't change those conditions. And that was, you know, you bought there knowing that. So I would rather see if a gate that was not white, and that it was a natural color and something that had more transparency. If, you know, if I was going to go with this height, that it would be more of a natural color. So it would just blend in a little bit more, you know, because especially with, is that your fencing to the left of this, the gate?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would blend in with that, you know, and be a little less visually prominent, especially
True.
in summer here when we can see the greenery and so forth.
I have a white house.
I understand.
White house.
Right,
But maybe,
yeah.
you know,
Right. Well, a lot of people
dark
have white
green
houses,
or-
but the idea of the fence is not to match the house, it's to, anyway, and the gate. So,
If, I don't know if you remember, but what I had actually done is the whole front of the house had a 4-foot berm, earthen berm, and a 6-foot fence on top of that.
oh my,
What I did was I took it all down,
Hmm.
took it down to street level and put a 4-foot fence on it
good for you.
Good.
to make it look a little bit more
Because the
pleasing.
other
and
was
aesthetic.
non-compliant anyway, so.
No, and it really didn't look very well. And now
Right.
you can see it's an old house. It's built in the 1800s. And
Mhm.
so you can see the house. And truthfully, I think it's part of the character of Amagansett. All I really did was relocate an existing gate that was there.
Right.
Moved it to the front.
Yeah.
Or to the side.
Yeah, just to explain our position, we run into this all the time. Existing gates don't necessarily mean compliant gates,
understand.
so we get to have to lower the boom when someone else should have done it before, so. I think I've said what I think.
Well,
Yeah, I mean, I lean the same way. I would prefer to see something not as high, not as white,
What would be not
and
as
not
high?
as solid. I mean, we've
Because the gate is
we've
6 foot,
approved in
the
this
columns
area
should-
and not high, five-ish.
What's the height of the front fence? 4?
4 feet.
Yeah, the front fence is, yeah, but you can see that there. We
Mhm.
can't see it on this picture. But I mean, honestly, if it was a different color, I wouldn't mind it so much. I find, even at
Maybe
this size
that's
and
the
transparency, I think it's the white that kind of
it's very
jumps out.
white.
Yeah.
I can't really strip it down.
No, but
it'll
you
fall
could-
apart. I'd have to build a new fence, a new gate
new-
and column.
We can't paint it.
Paint
Can you
it
paint it gray or something?
or green or
Or,
gray.
Something more.
Taupe.
No, it's getting worse and worse.
It's getting worse. How big are the posts?
It's not a
6
habit.
feet 7 inches.
That's the
Okay.
thing,
Yeah,
they're
it's a
very
big,
tall.
it's big, yeah,
Oh.
it's a big post.
But
the gate
there's
itself is
there's no
6
grade. I
something.
mean, that's actually the.
I mean,
there's-
technically, we shouldn't be approving a 6-foot-7-inch post here.
Is this considered the front yard? I mean, is there any, David, what do you think?
Yes, I believe that it would be.
Okay, because then we really can't do that. Okay, well,
I mean, it's kind of, we're in a bind.
yeah,
You have a beautiful historic house and it's near, really the official historic district. It would be nice to be able to, you lowered the fence in the front, obviously, for a reason, an aesthetic reason. I would say the same for this gate.
And to what would be my direction, or what would be
well, less than 6 feet, I think, something less than 6 feet.
the posts obviously
The
as well,
po-
right?
The
Yeah, the
posts need to
posts,
come
yeah.
down too. We can't approve the posts at this height,
Okay.
we can't. So I'm sorry. And really, I want to thank you for doing the restoration work and the work that you've done. I don't want you
Done
to
a lot.
feel chastised by this board. We're just, it's a tough position for us too, so I understand your position, but I like it.
Can it stay white, or white is absolutely out?
Well, if it's smaller,
Yes.
I think maybe white would be more
If you're gonna, yeah,
acceptable.
if you're going to make it white and you make it smaller and more transparent, I could go with white. So you can
Okay.
see through it more,
And-
Cut the bottom of it off and lower
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
There's
isn't
sort
there?
of 3
Fences
things in
aren't built
in
that
a
way.
gate or a
No way.
fence that contribute to its massing generally. The height, the transparency of it, if it's an open or whether it's solid, or the color. So you kind of have 3 things going for you, or don't, that are going against you right now, is that it's too tall.
Too white.
The color, as opposed to it being more natural and sort of blending in with the existing fence, is another thing, it being white. And the last thing is it's not very transparent. It's transparent at the top, but it's kind of like a give and take when these things, like if we were to approve a white gate that's 6 feet, we'd want it to be pretty transparent.
And
So it's kind of those 3 factors that you want to
sure.
balance. And hopefully you've been given some, I'm not sure if you've been given, you feel enough sort of guidance about, we can't, I don't think necessarily give you an exact answer because we haven't, sounds like we're going in the direction of not approving this. But so we can't give you, say, all right, option A is this and option B and option C.
Yeah.
But we've sort of, hopefully we've indicated to you, if you come back, like, this is what we would be.
But we really appreciate your respect for the neighborhood and what you've already done.
Thank you. Can I
Right.
ask about the transparency part in that? You mean transparency in the vertical slats?
Right, you see how the top of the gate has slats and you can see through, but
There's
that's
about
what we mean by the
6
transparency. So
16
if that
inches,
whole
yeah.
gate was like that, I think we would look more favorably toward it and
Or if there were less solid.
shorter. Yeah,
You know, I mean, if that was sort of, half the gate or a third
right.
of the gate,
I mean, I think that the,
the illusion of a wall.
right, yeah, because we're trying to, we don't want to see the wall is what we want to be able to see beyond it. That's part of the, especially with the older historic homes, you've
Yeah,
got
it's
a
pretty
beautiful home.
It's a-
So we'd like to be able to see it, and
We are prying eyes.
oh, please, let's
Sorry.
lose that phrase. I don't want to hear that phrase again.
I'm joking.
Um, So I think Frank has kind of laid it out pretty clearly that, what we're looking for, if the color is bright, we need more transparency. If the color is modest, then less transparency might work. If this were a natural cedar gate, it wouldn't jump out at us as much.
Right.
Although I still, because of its location, would like to see more transparency. That's my personal preference. I think if you just made a gate that had those slats in it all the way to the ground, but I don't know who is helping you with your gate, but you should look at a few designs and see.
Yeah, I didn't have anyone help me. I was just.
Gotcha.
You just moved it.
moved it.
Right, indeed.
Yeah,
Okay.
So I didn't
Right.
design.
Okay.
it
So
or
you have to,
anything.
we'll send you a follow-up letter. I'll try to touch on some of these points, so it'll help guide you. But the posts need to be lowered and the gate needs to be shorter.
Yeah, that I
Okay.
understand.
And we'll send you, a list, and you can take that to a contractor or whomever might help you with that design work. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Couldn't,
thank you.
Approve you tonight, but thank you very much for
Yeah, thank you.
representing our community in such a fine way. All right. Now we're on number 7. I'm so confused.
Yes.
Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-48-1-37. Mr. Session, have I pronounced your name correctly? Second? Okay, come on up. All right, this one's mine. How you doing, Jewel? Hanging in? Okay, so this is an application for, Mr. Secon has a can we start at the beginning of my photos, please, Will, where you could, the one with my car in it? Because I sent a bunch I trooped all over this lot. This gives you an idea of the, he has a very steeply sloped piece of property. I've never really seen anything quite like it in East Hampton. It borders the Montauk Mountain Preserve. And for those of us that didn't know, there was a mountain in Montauk. There is Montauk Mountain Preserve. And he has deer all over the place. I had to chuckle to myself as I left because I said to you, well, if you just take the fencing down, the deer can get out. There was a deer like right on the road as I was driving away. And I thought, well, this is what he's talking about, So anyway, he has a variety of fencing on the property. And I think that what you're trying to apply for, because your application didn't indicate exactly the size of fence that you want, but if I had to guess, I would say that you'd like 8-foot fencing around the whole thing. Would I be correct?
Yes, ma'am, the backyard.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. So there's a patchwork design of fencing, if you can, and it's all landscaped. One of the questions I had, if you could just proceed through these a little bit, Will, sort of slowish. That's the driveway to the right. So the property goes up this hill that you can see some of those fence posts on the right there. And that fencing is quite high. That's like 89 inches, and it varies. The height of it varies because the topography varies. It's a very, it's a straight incline up, but the way the posts are driven and so on, I took varying measurements, which was a lot of fun, wedging into those hedges. And yeah, so there's that's I think that's on the, what would be the south side? No, that's not the south side. That's the north, I guess. Anyway, and some of the fencing, there's some 4-foot fencing, and then there's 8-foot fencing above it. Oh, this is a question I had, and I'd like to just talk to you, Mr. Saccone, about it, and also with our attorney and the planning department. Could you go back one, Will, please? I'm looking right in there. You can see that those grasses were sort of bermed up, and there is a photo where the fence, there was a 4-foot chain link fence that is kind of capturing. Yeah, that's it. Capturing some of the soil. Now this is on the other side. Actually, this is the other side, because I noticed those Christmas trees in there, having laid a few to rest in my own yard in a similar way. But you can see that 4-foot chain link fence, and then above that, so that's kind of sunk in, and there's a little bit of a drop off on the opposite side of the fence. So I don't know if this is a berm too. I'm not sure what we should be looking at here. As I explained to Mr. Saccone when I visited him yesterday, I'm still new to this myself, so I'm trying to figure it out too. I did look through the property card, and I didn't see anything that explained any of this, to help me figure it out myself. And I believe him to be a good faith actor. He's trying to bring this into compliance and keep the deer out of his yard. He's recently put a pool in, or, the last couple of years. He bought the property in 2020, I think. And can you scroll through? Did I take pictures of the pool? I thought I did, but I took about 20 pictures here. So there are a couple of, that the pool is up at the top. You can go back to that. I think that.
Yeah, go back one.
Yeah, I think the pool is up at the flat part of that. I should have taken a picture from the top.
It's down there.
Oh, it's down from there?
Well, it's almost 50 feet from
Well,
It's so steep, yes.
So in order to have enough, sorry.
No, go ahead.
If you could talk in the mic,
in
that'd be
order
great, yeah.
for us to have the pool, there were 2 existing retaining walls that were made out of railroad ties, and we kept those exactly as they were, but changed them to stones, or Nicolock, I think they're called, like Lego pieces, to hold it up. And then the pool area, and then these walls that you're seeing are behind the pool.
Right. That's just to hold the mountain back.
To hold it all back. Yes.
Right.
ma'am.
It's one heck of a sledding hill, I'll bet, in the winter. Anyhow,
Yes, ma'am.
so
And then there's fencing on top.
and there's fencing on top. Well, I'll tell you, I walked this whole property, and it was a challenge in flip-flops. It was not a good footwear choice. But it's, I understand why it's fenced. They have to have fencing for the pool, but then there is a house. Can you see the house there?
There's a house there.
Yeah, there's a house, right, the house there. Yeah, I couldn't tell from my own
Is that
photo.
your house, or is that?
No, that's
that's
another
the
house.
neighbor's.
That's a neighbor's house. So that's the only house that's on an adjoining property. To the right of this property is the reserve. And
And to
so
the-
I think there's someone to the left, right? Or
To the left is an empty lot.
It's an empty
I
lot.
believe an elderly judge owns it, but he's never done anything with it. But
okay,
it's empty.
well, it's still, but it's buildable. So the point is, it could be occupied. So we have to take that into consideration as a potential residence, I guess. Anyway, it's not preserved land. It could be developed. So that we have to make that, make that part of our assessment. I'm a little bit of a loss to advise you. I understand your desire. Oh, can we look at the gates, please? The gates are big. The gates are over 7 feet, but they are back off the property line. I don't have a sense of whether they fit the 50-foot
Right.
know.
Do we have, it's the survey. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the survey and the, let's see, planter. Oh, no, I've got it upside down, sorry. So this is where you go up. These are the stairs. And then the gates are here, I think. Where are the gates? Why can't I see them?
Because they're hard to see.
Maybe they're not on here.
No. Do you have the, can you see the gates on the survey?
Well,
I mean,
Is it next to the
this line
house?
is one of the gates.
is it identified as a gate? Hot tub.
We look at, oh, you have it the other way around,
Oh.
so.
Yep. Concrete retaining wall. So could you just show this on the screen again, please, sir? I'm sorry, which is the gate?
There's a gate right here. This is it.
Right, but it's not labeled as a gate,
Marked,
right? Yeah.
I don't know why that.
No, it doesn't say gate. So I'm not crazy. I'm looking for a gate label on this thing and there's no gate. You know where it is because it's your land, but there's no way for us to know.
This line here between the 82 and the 80 height markings
Right.
on the left side is the gate you were just taking the picture of.
Oh, okay.
This one, maybe?
That's, I guess, 82 and 80. Yep, yep. Okay. All right. So I think what we're going to have to do is ask you to go back and have the surveyor put the gates on the survey because we need them depicted as gates and there needs to be measurements and so forth. If we could just look at the gates again, I mean, I will say that these gates are not visible from the road.
Right.
Practically nothing is visible from the road. They're
very
visible from a
nicely
helicopter, probably. But
You said 7 feet?
uh-huh.
Yeah.
That the middle part is 7 feet, and then it goes down there to about to a little less. It's a little over 6. I think it's like 75 inches. But they're this is the transparency that we were looking for. And then there's another fencing. There's more fencing. If you could scroll through, I hope these pictures made it. I sent so many. Yeah, keep going, please. Maybe they didn't come through. That's the corner. That's the back corner of the property. Yeah, that's another piece of that like berm stuff. Now as you go past that fence, it drops down probably 10 inches. It's so this has all been sort of built up against the fence, which is new to me. So you can keep scrolling. Well,
I don't want to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
that's okay. Jump
If I
in.
may. We did put in a berm between our property and our only neighbor at the top of the hill.
Okay.
Everything else that might appear as a berm
Uh-huh.
is the result of removing dirt in order to build the pool. So like you pull the dirt out and we had to have a place that was flat enough for the smaller.
I
bulldozers.
understand.
don't
So
know
it's
if
part of the
parts
grading is what you're saying. It's
Yes.
part of grading the land.
So what's the berm is actually was the top of existing grade?
The picture we were just looking at is from where the land got
Compacted.
thank you, compacted down while they were doing the construction, because that was that sideway was the only way to get up and down the hill.
Okay. So
And
that
so it
vehicles are
just- the
driving
vehicles
there.
came
Yeah, I
down
get
and
it.
That's what that was. But there is a proper berm at the, if we were looking at that survey in the top left corner where between us and our neighbor, we did the berm and then planted those evergreen trees at the top.
This is,
But is there a fence on that berm?
Yes,
that you-
there's a fence behind the trees.
yeah, right.
But on top of the berm?
No, because the berm, I believe, couldn't be like right on the edge. We had to put the berm a bit in.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one
As I
he's
remember,
just
because it had to do
describing.
this, but on our side of the property, and then the fence is over there, is on
Okay.
the far side of that.
Okay.
Okay, so there is a fence on what we think is a berm or not?
In my opinion, I do not think so,
Okay.
but that
'Cause
was
you're
not our
saying-
intention.
You're saying part of that is not actually a berm. It's like it created a berm by depressing the soil.
Yeah, because you see this and you're like, oh, well, he created a berm, but it's actually this because we dug all this dirt out.
Right. So, so the berm is actually existing natural grade.
I guess it is. It's just funny with the way
But the way the
leans up
fence-
against the fence,
Yeah,
you know, there
it
was a,
seems like the
the
fence
fence
is
went in
buried.
at some point, because that's what's holding
I
it.
can speak to that.
at some
Okay,
level.
you can
It's,
speak to
that's
that.
the retaining wall, is the fence on that one side. And that's what's confusing to me.
I believe we're talking about I don't know how to
As you
refer
look
to
at
the
the
top
house to
right.
the
Oh,
right,
if you're
yeah,
looking to the house,
that's
top
right. Yep.
We, as part of clearing out dirt for the pool and the areas, we had 2 weeks of trucks all day, every day.
Right.
Taking dirt out. And then we got what we thought was enough dirt out. And then as we were finishing thing at the end, we had a little left over. And so we just patted it down as much as we could.
Okay.
Because we couldn't get anything else. What was in our, as I understand it, in our building process, at a certain point, we couldn't both have our retaining walls and have the machinery be able to get up the hill to get more stuff. So once the walls were built, once you push the
that
machinery up,
land-
they knock
that
the wall down.
Soil was sort of trapped there, is
Yeah.
what you're saying. So you
Yeah,
had to
unless we
find a way
wanted
to
pay it by hand,
redistribute it.
like, down.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
And we couldn't dump it into like,
So
side fills.
so it's a way, so it was, that's how it's graded. So I guess we don't consider that a berm. I mean, I don't know. It's just odd, you know, the way it worked out.
Accumulation
Yeah,
of
yeah. But it is
basically.
higher, you know, I mean, it doesn't,
Well,
it
to me,
steps down for the neighboring land, which is why it feels like not grade, you know. So I don't know what to say about that, but anyway.
Ultimately, the height of the fencing is what exactly that we're,
Well, it's a variety, you know, he wants 8 feet all around. Some places it's not 8 feet. It's like, you know, 7.5. And some places it's
May I speak
8
to
feet.
the
So
fence height?
say again.
May I speak to the fence?
Yes, please.
We do not have any privacy concerns in this particular situation. We're at the end of a dead end road. We don't have neighbors. This is entirely about deer. And with regard to the deer on our property, what happens with this grade is that whatever height fence, let's say we have a 4-foot fence, 5-foot, 6-foot fence, as it grades down, the
No, I
deer
understand.
can jump over the fence
I
on
have the same problem
downhill,
on my lot. Yeah, I understand.
but then they
Yeah.
can't get out of my backyard.
Right.
And the gates we were looking at earlier, that we were discussing on the sides of the house, the only reason we have that bar up there is, I'm
Keep the
told.
deer.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. So they won't hit their head when they try to
Yeah,
jump in. or
they
out.
have to be able to see
Yeah.
past where they're
So
going to jump.
that's
Right.
that's the entire reason I'm here. is-
You know, that's why I mentioned it earlier.
Thank
and
you.
seeing the deer on my way home on Tuesday.
Yes,
We're having a nice visit with Tom Rule, your neighbor.
Oh, yeah,
who's a
he's
friend.
great. He
Yeah.
took me clamming.
Yeah, he's a great guy. Anyway, so I mean, my inclination is to, well, I think you should come back to us with an updated survey. I'm disinclined to ask you to change any of the fencing because I don't think the way it's not prohibiting of you at this point. You've already got the landscaping in. I think it's your reason for it is reasonable. The gates, which I would have preferred to be shorter, I understand but they are fit within our description of being up off and they really aren't visible from the street. So I don't think that's a problem. But I think you need to give us more information. You know, we need to have, the survey has to depict the gates. We have to have the size of the gates, because basically we should be approving those gates too. So if we're approving the fence, that way you can get your CO comprehensively and be done.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll send you a follow-up letter with the things we're asking for. And I think if the varying heights of your fence might be, you just give a little sampling of that on the survey too, that would be helpful. Just going forward, we're trying to create a record here so that when the building inspector comes, what we've approved makes sense to them.
Thank you.
Okay,
May I ask a question?
sure.
When I get the new survey,
Mhm.
I just want to make sure I do this correctly. The fence height shall be determined from,
Grade.
right, but
Right.
grade is on my side of the fence?
Well, I would think in this instance, yes, because if it's on the opposite side of the fence, you're not going to cut it.
Well, yeah,
It's going to be too
whatever it
high.
is, I just want to do
Yeah,
the
no,
right
it should
thing.
be on your side. We don't, not on the neighbor's side. And most of the problem that I've seen was on the preserve side anyway, so. Did you have a question?
I do have a question. Is the wire fencing that's reflected on the survey here, is some of it your neighbors, or is that all yours? Because some seems to run off outside your property line.
Oh, does it?
The previous owners actually erected a building that was off property.
Oh, my.
And when we got, it was like a shed, a big wooden shed, and we got there and we went, this is wrong. So we demolished it. And I think when I had my, I don't know what he's called, my gardener guy put in the fence, he just followed the line that
Guided
was
him.
there.
Okay.
But I can guide him in closer. It's no problem.
Yeah, well, we can't approve anything that's not on your property. That is a requirement. We can only approve what's on your property. And that was a really good catch, Mimi. Thank you for.
Well, that's okay. So my question is then, if this goes to it basically goes right to your front yard, and it's 7 feet.
Well, ma'am, I don't need the front yard fence.
No, yeah. So
Be whatever it needs
you
to be.
can see it on here. It's
Right.
on the left side. It goes all the way towards South Debussy Road on the left there where it says 70. And that's totally outside your property line?
This line?
Yes, but right next to it is the wire fencing.
Oh, this fencing here.
Yes, correct.
Yes, I can get rid.
So if you want to get rid
Fine.
of that,
That's good. That would be good.
and then on the other side, it is on your property line, but then it veers off again.
Right. On the opposite side.
Where the
Up toward the-
31 is
up
on
toward-
the upper right. You see the 31 there?
Oh, I see. Yeah, I'm happy to get rid of all of the fencing in the front yards. No
Great.
That would be great,
Great.
because then I think
Yep.
we would all feel more comfortable with having the 7
That's a
or 8
great
foot
suggestion. Yep.
just from basically your gates back, I
Yeah,
guess. it would be.
that would make me happy too.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. That's great. Oh, my
So,
gosh. how
one more thing.
wonderful.
So there
Lovely.
is,
Nice job.
to the left of the house, there's the driveway and the retaining wall, and to the left of that is fence. So I think just to reiterate, I think we need to see all fencing within your lot. So you're talking about taking it out in the front yard, but still next to the house, just on the left side of the lot line.
This one is.
Yeah, so you got to move that in for us to approve it.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we can't approve it if it's not in the lot.
Okay.
Which, yeah,
That
if
makes
you're
sense
gonna
to
get
you,
it
right? You
surveyed,
understand
you're
that.
going to have that
Right.
staked, and they will be,
Yeah.
they'll be able to do
But
that.
you understand that, right?
Yes.
That's- Okay, cool. Do you have any other questions for us, Mr. Seiko?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, great. It was good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Good luck.
Thank you for your
Okay,
help.
thanks.
Good weekend.
Tell Tom I said hey. All right. All right. Next up is Katya Beauchamp, Suffolk County Tax Map. Oh, no, that's been withdrawn by the applicant, right? Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-92-9-6. That has been postponed because representation couldn't be here tonight. So we're going to postpone that. Okay, now we're on to agricultural overlay. Number 10 on our agenda, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-196-1-21. This is Esperanza. Is Mr. Collet or a representative of his present?
Yes.
Hello.
Hello, good evening. My name is Benjamin Goodale. I'm an architect based in Sag Harbor, representing
Good ale.
Mr. Clay,
You know
representing,
some good ales.
yes,
Elizabeth Goodale.
my aunt
Your
from
aunt.
Southampton.
I'll be darned. Yeah. That's the old days.
Yep.
Way old. Yeah, okay.
Bayberry
Welcome,
Land,
Mr.
Going back to
Goodale.
Bayberry Land, the historic
Okay.
Bayberry Land.
Okay, so Esperanza, this is yours.
Yes, this is an application for a proposed project of described here as an entry gate, which would be a driveway gate, fencing, lighting, landscaping, generator, and AC condensers at grade. Yes, so this is it's just being finished, house.
New construction.
In
Yeah,
construction,
new
yes.
construction on Wainscott Hollow Road. It's a subdivision that borders an agricultural reserve. I kind of want to really break this down in little pieces because
Sure.
so I don't know what to deal with first. Let's deal with the generator. So the generator is 11 by 4 by 5 and 5.42 feet high, so a total of 44 square feet. It's the largest generator you could possibly buy, I think.
Huge.
It's not the smallest.
And that will be well, yes, you know what? Let's just go through the pictures first. So.
Sure. From this point of view, it would be
Right in that little corner right there.
corner.
Exactly.
Just to note, one of the main points of the site plan is that it's screened,
Yes.
almost 360
Yeah,
degrees.
and we'll look at that on the
height of
landscaping
screening
plan.
Sufficient to completely screen it.
So I honestly, I didn't take a picture of well, no, I did. If you go through, this would be for the driveway gate, so we'll deal with that in a little bit. Keep going, please. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. I just wanted to get the view.
Yeah.
One more, and there. Okay, so this is about the vicinity of the generator.
Yes, yeah, correct. It would be
Where the dumpster
where the
is?
car, the rightmost car, it would be approximately off of its right front bumper.
Exactly. Yeah, I may even have one more picture. I was distracted by the seagull that was perched on there for the longest time. There you go. See? So I don't know if this is staked out outside of the property. So it would be like sort of where the van is.
Or the
I'd
dumpster?
say, yeah, maybe between the van and the green pipe there. That's I think the photographs are helpful to establish the general region. If you want to have more of a proportional, excuse me.
It's okay.
I guess I'm
You're electric.
tonight. I think if you want a more proportional sense of how it relates to the house and the property,
We'll look at
maybe on the site plan. or
Yeah, we'll
survey,
look at
Yeah,
that
we'll
for
look at
sure,
that.
of course.
Yeah.
But sort of, this is the lay of the land. This is lot 4, which is next to this area here where these stakes are, is actually part of the ag reserve. I think it's an easement to access the ag reserve. And we can see that on the survey. And then toward where the first picture was of where the entrance
Mhm.
of the driveway is yet another lot. So that is just to give you an idea of how this is all.
Perspective,
I have such a hard time seeing this from here. Can you zoom in then? Well, yeah, thank you. All right, so there's on the upper, left there.
And if you, just to generally orient the board, the top leftmost portion of the page is the driveway, and most of the photos that you saw were coming from that top left
Yes.
towards the bottom right.
Yes. Okay, so that's the generator. We could look at the on the upper left corner,
Little square.
that little rectangle that you see with all the little red letters around it, and it meets all the setback requirements, I presume, from planning perspective. Will?
Yes.
And as you said, there's a landscape plan and it's going to be screened and so forth. And there won't be a direct neighbor right next to this anyway, so. We don't need to look at pictures of the generator, I don't think. We'll look at the landscape plan later. Let's go to the driveway gate. So on the upper, if you can push that survey down a bit. No, down.
Yeah. There you go.
Down,
One
down,
more.
down, there, okay. So the driveway gate is said to be located, it's a 6-foot-high driveway gate. And it would be, it's a 42-foot setback from the front yard, it indicates on the application, and a 10-foot setback from the side yard. So I was a little confused, and I saw this gentleman who's sitting here today, John, explained to me that they were describing that from the property line, which is across the access or the driveway easement. The 42
Right, as
feet.
is sometimes or typical in many cases when the, an easement within the property. Certain elements are allowed to have the setback considered from the full property line, not the set, the easement doesn't change the setback from the property line per se.
I just feel it's I think it's a very tight 6-foot gate, considering that you have this driveway that will be an access for 3 more houses beyond this one. I don't think it's appropriate for the neighborhood, really, and it seems kind of it seems to me a redundancy given the privacy of this area already. So that's my opinion on the driveway gate. We can look at the rendering of it. If they really want a 4-foot gate, they could have that.
So that it's currently drawn as 6 and that the board's preference would be for 4.
My preference would be no gate at all or
Right,
4 feet.
possibly amenable to that as a compromise.
Did you find it was part of those the renderings you just went through? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I stole your tech man here because I wanted to look at where the gate was, but.
Oh, okay. Well, you can see it on here as well. There it is. So it's the upper right design.
Yes. And then the intent that the pedestrian gate would be of similar construction.
Right. It's Alaskan yellow cedar planks at 3.5 inches in width with 3.5-inch spacing. And everything, as I said, 6 feet high. The pillars attached, that the gate attached to are 8 inches square. And then there are pedestrian gates, which are also part of this proposal, but those are 4 feet, and I think that's totally fine.
Sure. I guess off the bat, I would say perhaps we're not diametrically opposed to lowering the height of the gate, but if I might just make some points about the intent of our design. One is that we sought to keep the gate as simple as possible in terms of the size of the columns or posts adjacent to it. Basically just the minimum needed to get a steel column and wrap it with wood, whereas many other gates have finials and gaps and columns. And we sought to keep it as open as possible. And then in terms of the view through the gate, the view of the house and through the gate and experiencing the house and the yard as one proceeds down the common driveway, it's the house is clearly visible from the common driveway, and just hearing some of the other fence presentations, one of the main points is about the ability to see both through the fence and beyond. So there's, we're not attempting to wall off the property. And that we, again, we kept basically a 50% transparency. So those were the main points. We were hoping that the height would be acceptable given all those points.
Well, I remember when we approved this house, I think I recall saying explicitly, please don't put a driveway gate.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
So I understand it's the client's wish. And I presume a driveway gate is considered a fence, right? So it's not another kind of structure that would have to be within the building envelope. Eric?
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
Sorry.
Say that again?
Or Will, sorry.
Well, a driveway gate.
Is a driveway gate also, it's like,
Structure.
is a structure, is it a fence or is it a structure?
Does it need to be within the building envelope, I think is the question.
Yeah, I mean, I can review the approved subdivision, but I'm not sure if there's a wording that says all principal structures or all accessory structures.
It's right here.
I got it right here, and it says all buildings or structures on lots except driveways or utility lines. Conform to the building.
So now it doesn't.
Then
So
yes.
that answers the question. Yes. So the answer is yes. needs to be
Yeah, and
within the
just to
building
clarify,
envelope.
it's not a code thing, it's unique
Right.
to this subdivision, so we had
Needs
to
to be
look that
within the
up.
building envelope.
And I believe we're in conformance in terms of that location or
Okay.
setback.
So that's within the
Is that,
building
is
envelope?
that your
Well,
understanding?
our problem with it when we were looking at the survey was that the building envelope.
Is not,
Building envelope isn't
not
depicted on the
not
survey.
depicted. So yeah,
Okay.
we have that issue, actually.
So so you'll need to resubmit a survey that depicts the building envelope so that we can,
Actually see the structures as they are proposed.
Could you bring up the survey and also the landscape plan by landscape details?
Yeah.
Yeah. The setbacks are indicated on the site plan prepared by the landscape architect.
The setbacks are, but is that different from, that's different from the building?
yeah, the
envelope?
building envelope is sometimes on these subdivisions, building envelopes were prescribed that, exceed the setback limitations. There isn't always concurrent with the setbacks.
Not to get too lost in the weeds in terms of the semantics, but the building envelope is the resultant area, which is
Right.
defined by the setbacks.
Right.
It's my understanding that the setbacks indicated on the landscape site plan are the setbacks that are determined on this property by the specified setbacks of this subdivision. And thus the setbacks shown on the site plan are the relevant
Yeah, I understand. They
controlling-
determine that what you're saying is the setbacks determine the building envelope. And we're saying we need the building envelope to be depicted. We have had applications where the building envelope differs from the setbacks. Because some subdivisions have been made with more stringent building envelopes than the setbacks would normally dictate. Do you understand that point?
I think generally, what I'm trying to understand is that if there's any specific information that's not already included on the site plan, exactly what it is or what in your review indicates that that there would be something specifically different than the setbacks that have been represented by the landscape architect for the subdivision.
Survey, I think.
I know.
So add them to the surveys
Yeah, the
point to
building
ensure that they're
envelope shown on the survey.
verified by the
The
survey.
building envelope visualized on.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
Because I think that
you.
will be essential then for all of this
Yeah.
review, right?
Yep,
Yes.
because we have to know that
Sorry
that
to
the,
go around and around about this, but then I
Okay.
just remember.
we have to know that the generator is within that and any structures need to be.
I'm willing to accept and review a drawing that's not the survey that is a scale drawing submitted by Landscape Details that clearly calls out the building envelope. I think
I mean, that we do have that as part of this.
but I think but my understanding is
And
the setbacks are called out on the landscape plan, but not the building envelope might differ. Is that right?
That's what I'm
Yeah,
understanding.
that's what, I
Yeah.
mean,
Is there,
to use as an example, that Great Oak Way, those guys have unusual shaped building envelopes
Mhm.
and they don't conform to the normal setbacks.
Yeah, because.
So when this
the
ag overlay,
subdivision might have specified a building envelope
Right.
that is different from the.
right, from the usual protocol. I'm not,
and that happens occasionally, but it's fairly atypical. So for us to have,
correct.
I mean, these are setbacks that we worked in conjunction with Landscape Details and Saskis, the surveyor, who actually provided the setbacks, which Landscape Details used. So there's no indication in any of the review or paperwork that would suggest or indicate that there's a specific atypical building envelope other than the specified setbacks which have been verified. If it's a matter of getting them on the survey, we can get them on the survey, but I want to be clear that if we come back with the same lines on the survey, that you don't say, well, there's a chance that the subdivision buildings envelope.
I'm just gonna call out, it's right on the property card from May 23rd, 2022, this year. Returned building permit application for tennis court 2GC. blah, 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 tennis court to be within the building envelope and meet 50-foot setback survey to show building envelope, no walls, fences, or backboards above natural grade without ARB approval. But the point being that they actually put this in here, it says survey to show building envelope. So I'm just reading from the property card. And apparently that was needed even for the tennis court to be approved, correct?
And actually, that's the point that was essentially the catalyst to this new site plan, is that we had indicated a tennis court on the site plan previously. In working with Saskis, there was, with a surveyor, there was a clarification that our previously reviewed and what we thought was acceptable tennis court, in fact, was not in conformance with the town code for sports courts, which is twice the accessory and or 50 feet or minimum of 50 feet, whichever is more if it's neighboring a residential property. So I believe the note from the on the building
Property card.
no,
yeah.
the property card was specifically that they had looked at a site plan that they said, hey, no, the tennis court, you're not clear. It needs to be at least 50
Right, which
feet
is
back.
which is
And
a
so
good
the
example
clarification-
of the point we're making, which
Yeah.
is that your building envelope doesn't conform to the normal setbacks, and we need it depicted on the
relative to
survey.
the tennis court, and that's what we're resubmitting. here,
Relative
but-
to everything, because the subdivision, it states clearly, no buildings or structures except fences shall be constructed. Oh, well, sorry, the other one that you just said. All buildings and structures on lots except driveways and utility lines, but including other accessory buildings and structures shall conform to building envelopes on lots.
Right. So it's without the building envelope depicted on the survey, we have trouble visualizing where your
Sure that we're
various structures are going to be.
Okay, so I guess my question is, do you have the information specific to the subdivision?
And it is slightly different than the standard principal and accessory building setbacks.
Thank you.
But we can get that to you, and as
Yeah.
long as you can, put the building envelope.
I mean, I think this is a physical problem with a physical solution. I don't think it's gonna,
Okay,
rip you apart, but that's what we need at this
Gotcha.
point. So we really, I think my advice would be to reconsider the height of the gate, or if you need a gate, please ask your clients, and then resubmit with the building envelope on the survey, and we should be able to get through this pretty quickly.
I'd make a couple of points. One is, if the consideration is deer for a gate, I would be more receptive to a cattle gate than seeing a gate itself.
That's actually more effective anyway. Yeah.
that was discussed. They have their pros and cons.
Yeah,
I mean, certainly
Absolutely.
they're
I've
less-
almost killed myself on those.
Yeah, both people and animals.
No, it's not, yeah.
They generally avoid them, but they
Right.
they can get a broken
Right.
leg or a
Yeah,
dog.
cows in particular, yeah.
And the question is, what is the size and height of the generator?
Oh,
That
I
was,
gave you
that was, we-
11 by 4 by 5,
It's really big.
5.42 feet high.
5 feet high. I mean, I'm just saying to the board that, to me, this is an example again of, we had an application recently where with the landscape, it looked fine. It was a wall, but we have to consider what happens if the property is sold and someone decides
When I,
it has a change of heart about landscape and decides to remove it. So we're left with the architecture and the structures, and are we comfortable? It's like, I think this is an example to me of something that seems comfortably screened, but what happens when that screening goes away? Part of our task is to determine if a new owner comes in 10 years down the road and that's grandfathered to put a generator in there, and all of a sudden it's like the first thing you see from the road, how do we feel about that? So I'm not giving an answer yet on the generator, but I'm just
That's
sort of
something to
putting that
consider. I
in
think
the
that's a really good point,
mind.
Frank. Thanks for bringing it up. Because, these approvals are on with the land, as you know.
Sure.
And so once we approve something, and Frank, we did have this discussion with another a home in an agricultural overlay, that the landscaping isn't always the most reliable screening for the long term because
Sure.
things die, or as he's saying, subsequent owners may choose a different way to go.
Would
So-
it be desirable to the board to have a fence inbound of the screening hedge?
Not so much. I mean,
And
frankly,
that's
my
the
issue is
fence would
that
be more persistent or durable than the planting?
my issue is the generator being closer to the street than the house.
Mhm.
Like, if I had a choice, I would put as an architectural review board, maybe not the property owner, but from the architectural review board, I would prefer to put it on the other side of the house from the street. So if, granted, you could see it from the field, but it's a pretty big field. So, if that were to open up, and also, I don't know if these are privet hedges, which become
Yes.
barren in the winter. It would be kind of hidden behind the house from the street, as opposed to during the winter, you're going to see this huge
The
generator.
first thing, right. First thing you
So-
see.
Sure.
So I think that's a great suggestion too.
If,
The kind of.
so two questions with that in terms of desirable location. If it was pulled to the south to be in line with the condensers and just sort of past the corner of the house, would that be more acceptable?
Well, I wouldn't, my feeling is I wouldn't want to see it more streetwards of the property. I wouldn't want to see, so if you take a line of the house, which is
And here, the street being the common driveway, essentially.
Right.
Well, I mean, like visually, so the street itself, correct me if I'm wrong, the street itself is west, right? It's at the bottom or the survey is to the left, right? So I'd want to flip the generator to the other side of the house. So if you look at the land,
We got it, sort of,
Yeah.
this region would be more.
More
Yeah,
desirable,
that makes
yes.
much more sense.
so I would prefer to put it back there, like near even maybe to the left of that accessory, what's that, the pool house? Like screen it back, you could. Yeah, like to the right of to the opposite side of the driveway.
I mean, not close.
Yes,
brings
that's
it
like-
closer to a neighbor.
it is
That's
closer
my
to the
only
neighbor.
concern with that. I mean,
Future
visually,
neighbor.
yeah, because
Yeah.
that's another lot that's developable.
And
And
in
that's something we should.
But then that's-
several of our reviews of the various amendments over the past.
Sorry, could you start that again,
Yeah.
please?
During several of our reviews of various amendments that we've submitted and met on over the past 6 to 12 months, one of the key points was always the view from the south as you're coming north on Wayne Scott Hollow Road,
Right.
and the view across the field as
Right.
being the prominent view of the property, and that is that's what we want to keep as pristine as possible. And in this sense, that was the point of this location, is that
If I had to choose between the owner seeing it and the public seeing it, I'd rather have the owner see it. I'm sorry, the owner of the new property seeing it. I don't have such an issue putting it near the lot line of the new, that's me, and you're saying there's a lot to the
You mean
east
of
of
the-
this,
of the
right?
Potential new
Lot
neighbor,
5 would be developed.
In lot 5, right.
which
So,
is, yeah, next to where we're
So they
proposing.
you know,
could-
our job is not to look out for lot 5. Our lot is to look out for the public.
and so my point was that if the view coming up Wayne Scott North Hollow Road this way is the primary view of the house
Mhm, mhm.
across the field, that this is sort of tucked in the corner, and you really don't see this corner of the driveway as much. We start pushing it this way or flipping it to this side, it becomes more in the view of, the view code of what's
But
across
I
the
think,
field.
I
to the
think
east
Frank
side.
is indicating more like where the garage, like between the garage and the pool house, somewhere in that region, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the region of the proposed pool house.
Yeah.
Where there's already some building.
I mean, and just one other technical reason is partly about the transformer that we have in the driveway and where they're going and the amount of conduit and trenching that needs to be dug
It's
in
more
an
expensive.
agricultural area,
No,
which
it's-
we always try
it's
to
more
minimize. And
expensive. But, so, I'm sorry, I interrupt.
or it's more expensive and it's just more disruptive. And one of the missions is anytime construction is adjacent to agricultural overlay or part of an agricultural area is to minimize
The disturbance. of
grading,
the soil,
disturbance,
yeah.
trenching.
No, I understand that. And
And
I think we're past that at this point on this lot.
I mean, we
well,
designed a
it's,
huge.
I mean, if we're, it's,
Hang on, hang on.
we're
putting
past
in
it in
a-
terms of the house, but we're not, if we're reviewing and talking about the parameters of locating this particular structure, it makes an effect in terms of,
We're doing a how big a house, like disrupting the, like, we're doing a how big a house here, and we're debating like how disruptive putting a generator is, trenching it.
Yeah,
I
we're way
don't-
past that point. I
what
think.
size, how big is the house again?
Over 8,000 square feet.
Oh, okay. That's a big one.
I don't.
Yeah.
I get it. It's expensive to trench. There's more money involved, but if you want a generator's not cheap, and I just, that's my view is I don't want to see in the winter coming down Wayne Scott Hollow Road, the other direction, any direction. I don't want to see this big generator in the field of view.
Yeah, that's part of our
I
responsibility. I
agree.
think Frank makes a good point. Maybe the best direction we can give you now, given that you have to come back to us with a building envelope on the
Sure.
survey, and you'll need to make, I'm assuming, maybe a couple of changes with respect to where the gate will be located if you choose a gate, and to, consider some other places for the generator that, based on the comments that you've heard
okay.
from us. And then, did you have some questions?
There were a
about the
few more
lighting?
points on the application.
Yeah, the lighting, I think, the lighting, the Hinckley path lights seem acceptable. The change of the barn lights on the garage, there were 3 proposed over the 3 garage doors, and now they would be eliminated, and there would be soffit lighting, or just underneath the little overhang, little LED wafer lights. That seems an acceptable change. Would you be getting rid of all the other barn lights as well?
No, it was
There's
just
one-
in that location with the garage. There's a small brow roof over the garage doors, and the lights above were only lighting the roof.
Yes,
And,
yes.
it's,
Yes.
again, that view across the field, the point is to light the garage, so you have safety coming and going, and
Yeah.
lighting the roof just makes it more
Um,
visible across the field, kind of.
I think the tree lighting is redundant. So that would just be my last observation about the lighting plan.
Yeah, I don't understand tree lighting personally.
And there's no lighting proposed for the actual driveway gate, right?
No, not for the gate. The lighting in this case is for
It's decorative.
It's decorative, but it also serves a purpose in terms of lighting the walkway and the driveway area as occupants are coming and going. We do have a full lighting control system and automation, which includes control of the landscape lighting. So if there was specific timing that wanted to be directed or built in, as is sometimes the case, we can certainly accommodate that aspect of it.
I feel like the garage lighting is sufficient, frankly. That's my,
Yeah, I mean, I feel similarly. Is there pathway light? Didn't you say
And
there
the
was pathway
yeah,
lighting? So
there's
if there's pathway lighting and garage lighting, that's probably sufficient. I mean, one of the, one of the qualities that we're talking about here, the view shed of that agricultural land, we're already taking a flat piece of, developable farmland or productive farmland and putting houses on it. So I think that the areas of the house that need to be lit for the safety of the occupants is one thing, but to light the trees, I agree with Esperanza that it feels redundant, because it's at night, there's already going to be this silhouette of lighting
the house.
from the house and the walkway and so forth. It just doesn't, I mean, it isn't insignificant that you're introducing light into a place that's been dark, that there are creatures and plants and things that are affected by nightlight that doesn't exist in the natural world. So unless it's a full moon, so I think if you could cut down on that, I think that would be welcome.
I mean, if like the lighting control in terms of a timer, if it was in like the shoulder hours of the evening and not entirely through the night. But
Who can control that, really?
I mean, one of the problems we have with that again is the same issue that Frank brought up, member Guittard brought up, which is, when the house changes hands, somebody can like remove that timer. To put a covenant restriction on a property like this, it says that the light's got to be on a timer. It becomes a, regulatory nightmare. So
The existing code does call out for when, I think it's 11 o'clock, exterior lights are supposed to be turned off.
And who actually follows that?
Well, the point is, it is in the code, but I mean, 11 o'clock is pretty late. I mean, I'm not as a principal, I'm not against uplighting of landscape, but it's a pretty sensitive site that is pretty visible from afar. And I think particularly in winter, though it can be dramatic to see the silhouette of a tree uplit bare, it's a pretty sensitive area at night. And I wouldn't be, I think in this area, I wouldn't be comfortable with uplighting of trees.
Or downlighting, really, whatever it is. Or just
sideways
lighting
lighting.
generally of trees, yeah.
okay. Was there something else?
I think does that touch on everything from the application?
I mean, you can come back with that, with
another
lights that
proposal.
are down lights,
just while we're on this image, we had another note. We're now proposing for the shingles and exterior trim to be naturally weathered as opposed to stained.
I like that.
Weren't they always to be natural?
No, there was they were noted to be stained.
It was approved as
in the original approval, like as many people do, the sort of transparent, semi-transparent gray to supposedly speed the aging. In this case, it was decided just to be left natural, which
That's an improvement.
again, fewer chemicals next to an agricultural overlay.
Which is an interesting point you make.
Yep.
An article I read about this agri-hood states that there are no chemicals to be used on these properties, but I'm not aware of exactly where that's stipulated. So that if you can produce that, that would be really great, because it's in print with Mr. Collet saying it. So I'd really like to see that.
Sorry, see what?
I think he doesn't know what you're referring to.
Yeah.
The
No, he
adjacent
actually
farm.
says it about the properties as well, the lots. So I'd be curious to know where that is actually stipulated.
Conditioned in some way. Right.
I can try to
But it's
follow up
good
on that,
that you're
but
doing.
hopefully
That's not your question right now.
Sure, exactly.
Right.
We're okay
No.
with the natural.
No, I think that's great. I do. I don't know how you feel, that it's not going to be stained.
I
natural.
really didn't even remember. I thought it was supposed to be natural. So
Okay.
that's fine. Yeah.
So it's meeting your expectations.
Wow. Yeah.
In that regard.
Well, that's good. And yeah.
And just back to the generator and the plantings and surrounding it and screening. If you could bring up the landscape detail site plan again, just to note that in addition to the screening directly around the generator, the property is screened extensively around the yard. Again, I understand we're not, you can't predict future ownership, but in as much as the ARB reviews and approves site plans that are, contingent upon the nature of plantings, any site plan, someone could come down and chop down a tree that was approved as part of the ARB
correct.
plan. So it just seems like an impossible parameter to plan for. what we seek to do is submit a plan that's in keeping with the, intent and goals of the ARB and conform and comply with all dimensional regulations.
Well, we
It
appreciate
seems
that.
a
but
high bar
what
to
is your,
then-
do you have a specific question regarding this, sir?
Just if I mentioned an inboard fence of that. So if the point is, well, we can't plan for what some future owner might do, would it not be fair to then consider an additional intervention that would then, if someone let all the privet die, that would,
I'd actually kind of like that. One thing I actually don't like is how it's like walled off like
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to
sort
bring
of
up
a-
that point. Yeah.
I mean, one of the
moat.
sorry, what was your point?
Well, the point is, I mean, you're saying like, I think what you're arguing is that, or what you're saying is that the nature of this changes if the privet around it dies. And I actually would, which could happen. And I actually would sort of prefer, we can't stop you from doing it, but I actually prefer it to me.
To not be screened.
I actually
The
kinda
whole
prefer-
6 to 8 foot
I
privet in the
prefer
front.
having it like open with the land.
Yeah.
Like this is a country house that's not
right.
walled off by a green wall.
One of the qualities
You
of the
can't stop that.
agricultural overlay is actually the view shed. And the view shed is obstructed by any,
Well, I'll just make the
you
point.
know,
The back
cer-
is actually not priveted. This is all,
Right.
from what I can
Right.
see, is meadow grasses. So
Which is great.
The ag reserve side is
Right.
left open.
right.
So, which begs the question why there is such a need for like 6 to 8 foot privet in the front, which is the privacy you would probably want more in the back, if anything. But anyway, I
Well, whatever it is.
think
I
it's
mean,
a
yeah,
corridor, or
yeah.
like you just called
Right.
it, a moat that is really,
Right.
again,
So-
unnecessary.
I think that this was all brought up in the context of the generator.
Yep.
And so I'm still not clear on if we have to answer a question for you about the generator, do you have something more specific you need from us? I'm not sure that I am.
No, I think I
Okay.
got all the various
Okay.
points. Are there any other concerns about the site plan? It's a revision of the site plan for the relocation of the tennis court being a sunken tennis court, not directly under the purview of the ARB, but we have a number of mechanical condenser units located that we would like to proceed with
Right, 'cause
if
you
those are
wanna-
acceptable.
Want to start putting that in.
Right.
So
Well,
we-
we have to know they're inside the building envelope.
where are the condensers again?
Well, there are 2 condensers right at
Oh,
the,
yeah,
right.
right.
Yes, you
In the
see them.
corner.
Are those the only 2?
Um,
I don't see another indication.
Right, the rest those are the only 2 that are above grade. The others are within the pit to the west of the building towards the bottom of the
That
page.
seems clearly to be in the building envelope, no?
I would guess so, but
Yeah.
you never know how these things are drawn. Honestly, it's especially because this is the driveway side, isn't it?
Yes.
So I don't know what kind of, they may have bumped it back more. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I see 2 AC condensers on the vicinity of the generator, right
Mhm.
next to the building.
Mhm.
Seems fine.
I
It
mean,
seems,
I
they
think
seem
if it's
fine. to
within the
me.
building envelope, that would be fine. That would be my
they're well
general
within,
take
it's a
on that.
20
Is if you
foot
can
setback for
demonstrate
these
that it's
items.
within the building envelope, then their location is okay with me.
Are there other other condensers that I'm not seeing here?
Oh, here's another one next to the pool house.
There's
Oh, yeah. Wait. Where?
Just behind the pool house, sort of where you were,
Oh,
in the area of where you were thinking of the generator, no?
well, that's a question. I don't object to its location, but can you put it? Yeah, it's an accessory setback. Seems fine.
Good.
Yeah.
Again, I think we just still need to see that survey, right?
Yeah, we do. But I just wanted him to have as much
An
input from
idea.
us as possible so that he can go back and do that work with a more informed point of view.
I mean,
Good?
yeah, I know. Do AC condensers need to be within the principal envelope.
If it's a structure, I'm assuming they're
And they might have
structures, and any
enclosures.
structure needs to be
Yeah.
within the building envelope. Is it-
No
is it
accessory
AC con-
structures.
AC condenser is structure.
Yeah,
So it's
Okay,
in
so
there.
then it's got to be within the building
per the
envelope.
Right.
definitions of the
Yeah.
zoning code.
Yeah, okay. So I think we're on the same page with that. So do you have any other questions for us, Mr. Goodale? No? Okay,
No,
we'll
thank
send you
you.
a follow-up letter with as much of this notated as we can, so you'll have a list you can, work from and get back to us at your earliest convenience,
Thank you for
okay?
your time.
All right, thank you.
You.
All right, have a good evening.
Good night.
Okey doke. We're on to item 11 on the agenda, which is Pamela Mahoney, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-200-02-21. Frank, this is yours. Is Miss Mahoney or a representative of Mr. Savarese? Is that you, sir? Welcome. Okay. How are you?
Good.
Good.
Louis Savarese
Savarese.
representing Pam and Mike Mahoney. After the last hearing, you asked for additional information. Bruce Siska, the architect, drew up some stuff that was submitted having to do with the grading and the appearance of the house. I think one of the concerns was comparing the existing roof line with the
Yeah, just a minute. yeah.
proposed roof line.
Right. Okay, thank you, Mr.
Yeah, yeah,
Savarese.
thanks. Sorry,
What we generally do here is the board member that's representing
Oh,
your
oh, I'm
application will
sorry.
go first. And
Okay.
then if you have more information you'd like to add after
Sure.
Frank has done his summary,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
then we'll
And-
give you plenty of time to speak. But thank you.
Will, do you have the photos from 2 weeks ago in
I
this
can pull them
file?
up, hang on.
Yeah, so people are familiarized with it. Okay,
Yeah, that was the 14th is one.
okay, so, this application is for a proposed renovation, I'm just reminding everyone, of a relatively modest house near the end of Beach Lane in Wayne-Scott. This application came before us on June 23rd, and as Mr. Savarese said, we requested further clarification on some items. The scope of the proposed work on the house as follows. Raise the house to meet FEMA coastal flooding requirements. Put in a concrete foundation and basement with walkout at rear of the house. And raise the roof line and simplify the roof line to create living space for an upper level. We requested the applicant to provide further information on the following two items. Further information on how the roof height will change and clarification on how the building will meet grade, seeing as the house main floor is being raised from 14 feet to 17 feet above sea level. The revised plans and elevations show a 12-inch high retaining wall between the driveway and the house. The elevations indicate that there would be a modest slope from existing grade at 12 feet to 15 feet where grade meets the house. So the design proposes raising the grade up 3 feet to the house. I think the applicant has done their best to navigate how the house gets raised 3 feet, given FEMA requirements, while not looking like it has been lifted 3 feet in the air. One concern I have is the proposed site plan on drawing the first sheet, SP.01, doesn't seem to show the proposed grading. So maybe if Mr. Savarese, if you can speak to that, I understand. Maybe we can go through the drawings, but just for the board's clarification, the elevations like page 2 and page 3 and page 4 do show how the proposed, there would be fill brought into the site and how the slope would grade up. The first page on this, the plan, doesn't seem to show that proposed grading. So
Can you advance
Yes,
through
the-
those,
the
Will,
next-
please?
So what they
This is the
propose to do, they
Line of
have a
existing
large
grade.
hedge on the southwest corner of the house. They want to move it forward to the southeast corner. The large bushes that you saw existing, they intend to replant, in the front of the house. The 12-inch, approximately 1 foot retaining wall creates this kind of planting bed. This is the driveway going back to the garage. So they also, if you look at the plans, they offered to add 2 courses of shingles below the existing to help cover.
Soften that. Yeah, that's great.
Foundation that's now. So the grade from here towards the street, this is over 100 feet back from the street. So that's, fairly minor. This side, you're not going to see anything. This, you'll just see the garage, and the rear, again, is not visible unless you're trespassing on the property. So none of the neighbors on the south property line has a large hedge. They can't see anything. The north side, which is Lauder, again, a lot of growth. So they feel that, this is the minimum impact. One of the things that they constantly bring up is that they want this property and the house to remain as close to original as possible.
Which we really appreciate. Yes.
I think it's great.
Yeah.
I think my only concern about this, again, is that I don't know where from the street where and this is, I don't even know if this is in our purview about grade, but I think it is.
There is another.
Where does it start to slope up?
Elevation.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, these were helpful for me. I was glad to see the roof line. That was an improvement.
This
Yeah.
is the existing.
And it shows you the difference, in the scale.
He's showing the grade here. Where is the?
There's not one going in the opposite direction that shows
this is the height going to 0. I believe there is one. Is there another? I thought there was one that showed from the front of the house going to the existing elevation.
Right.
Just a gentle slope.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's, and again, it gets back to the site plan is if I just had a thing where it says
how the grade
that indicated when it starts sloping up, I just don't want to, I want to avoid a situation. I don't think this could happen. I don't think this will happen, but it could happen where the applicant start from the street starts to slope up 3 feet, like 50 feet in front of the house or 40 feet, and it looks like a ramp going up. So we just need to make sure that doesn't
No, I think if you look at the site plan, you can see, because you also requested locating the retaining wall.
Right.
Yeah, we saw that.
Go back to the site.
Yeah, let's go to the site plan. So you can, it's just the spot elevations are all like.
You can see.
See that.
Retainage goes to nothing.
Yeah. But right in front of the house.
Right.
On the street side, look at the elevation points. It's supposed to go up to 15 feet, but I see 12.1. So that's existing grade on this drawing.
I see, yeah.
So
that's the 3 foot difference.
I would just that's why I think that's why I requested to see a landscape plan. It's just like a landscape plan will show you proposed grading. I mean, I'd be curious what the other members think. Maybe I'm asking too much here, but I don't want to see like some sort of.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that
plateau. Yeah.
That
I get it.
Again, they have the driveway, which they have to keep. So that's going to limit, doing what you're saying. You can't just raise the front of it with the driveway to the north. So that will limit what they can do. The only grading will occur once you start that retaining wall that's shown here.
Right.
It will start from that side of the house. What I'm talking, the most important to me is how it's seen from the street. So I just want to.
Right. So in other words, this is seen from the street, and then once this retaining wall starts coming up, then it will gradually grade to the house.
So the retaining, where the retaining wall begins is going to be the beginning of the grading? Is that, I mean, that's, I think, what
Sort of
Frank's
a-
question is.
It's not
that gives
indicated
you-
on the drawing
Yeah.
where the grading starts.
Yeah, we
and-
only understanding
It
that
is-
from you now.
It
Yeah,
starts here, right?
it looks to be. And
Yeah.
that's kind of a complicated line, but I would
Yeah.
guess that's it.
That's where I stand on this.
The last thing they want to do is change the appearance of the
We
property.
understand that.
We
We're just
understand
trying
that,
to
but-
leave a record of this, because when it does change hands, it just will. And we need to be able, it's hard for us to visualize these things without some dimensions depicted. And this is helpful that you've just said it's where the retaining wall begins will be where the grade begins to
Right, to
upward.
maintain the driveway.
That would be something that we would appreciate having depicted on the survey. Now, if I'm understanding what you're pointing out on the smart board there correctly, it looks as though the retaining wall starts right where this topo line is this a topo line? What is this?
Yeah, I don't know. It's the number 2.
Yeah, number 2 line kind of curves
Curves
around
around,
and crosses the existing driveway where that loop is. Is that where it's kind of a darker line here? I can't tell by the legend if that's a retaining wall.
Center line.
I mean, I also do think from a survey standpoint of view, I don't know why this has not been, I don't know why there's actually no dimension given here.
It's a structure, so it should be depicted on the survey.
So this is not actually a survey. This is an architect's site plan.
Architect's site plan.
The site plan, yeah.
Did we have the George Wellbridge survey?
Let me see, let me pull it up from 2 weeks ago. Drawings elevation
I
survey.
mean, it may be in the OneDrive, but.
That's a good point. So the survey from 2 weeks ago shows the existing condition. It does not show, we don't have a proposed survey.
So the proposed,
Proposed survey is going to need to show,
the survey that you submit needs to show existing and proposed is, I think, what Frank is
there's a
trying to
proposed,
say.
like when you go to obviously the building department, your
Right.
survey you go has got to show the structures that are going to be built. And it's got to show the dwelling elevation of 17 feet.
Right.
So we have an existing survey, but we don't have a proposed survey. Unless it was there, but I don't.
Can you enlarge that a little, please, Will, especially along the driveway for this area that we're trying to
Yeah.
understand better? By the driveway and where that, you see, I don't see it on there.
So we need a proposed survey, not existing conditions. And
On the proposed survey,
I-
you want to see the actual elevation of the
No.
retaining wall?
no, well, it would say top of retaining wall. Most surveys would call that out, elevation wise.
Maybe they could go back in and put it on the existing survey, couldn't they? They have to do a whole proposed
Legally, they're going to have to do it for
Oh,
the
yeah.
building
Oh,
department.
okay. I thought existing and proposed could be on the same survey.
Any work you do is going to have to show the proposed work for the building department's going to have to see that.
Okay, well, that's a good point. So,
So you're going to.
I mean, on Bruce Siska's elevations, he does call out the grade.
Right. So what I was going to say, what I would like to see are two things. One is you're going to need this anyway. You're going to need a survey of showing the proposed work. So
Retaining wall.
So basically Bruce is going to send his CAD backgrounds to the surveyor
Okay.
and they're going to update the survey. Number 2,
Here's the existing.
I would like to see on drawing
And can you see
on
the side that it's coming in?
Bruce Siska's SP01, his plan. I would like to show,
the sides and from the front.
I would like to see proposed grading. Because you're showing existing grade, I'd like to see proposed contours
Yeah, so
to be able to convince how is the grading going to work on this?
it is. Pardon?
3 feet is it is a lot. Well, that's, I think, what Frank's point has been, is how does the house meet grade? That was his question, first of all, and I think it was a good point.
Just super flat.
Yeah, because it's so flat there. Yeah.
I mean,
so
he'll
flat.
know.
Yeah, he'll
The architect
understand
will
that.
know if you say put on the proposed contours.
Yeah.
To show how it grades to 15 feet, he'll know. So,
Okay.
yeah.
And we'll send a follow-up letter with that information so that you can take it to him.
Okay.
And that'll give you some
So-
direction. But otherwise, I think we're headed in the right
Yeah.
direction. I appreciate you coming in with the roof line. That's a big
Yeah.
help to me because the massing of that was something I couldn't really visualize without that detail. So that was helpful.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if hopefully our letter gave enough direction, but perhaps
Right. We'll be more
Perhaps
specific this time.
I apologize if we didn't give enough specificity to the follow-up letter in asking for contours. I thought that was sort of understood and how the house meets grade, that would show up, but we can be more explicit
Okay.
on this one.
And it's basically 2 items.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's
Yeah.
2 things. One is a proposed survey, and 2 is SP 01 drawing showing proposed topographical contours.
Right. And we'd like to know, I mean, I'd like to see the retaining wall depicted because the retaining wall wasn't identified even on the site plan. So usually the structures are identified. We figured it out because you were here to guide us, but this should be something we should be able to open up and refer to. So if you just go back in and because that helps us in all our evaluations to understand where it starts and how, as Frank is saying, the grade will accrue to get to the building.
Yeah, and you also understand that the retaining wall needs to be, the surveyor would do this, but needs to be dimensioned from the property line.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Savarese.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Now we are on to certificates of occupancy. The first is Wainscott Farms LLC. Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-192-3-5.1. And Esperanza, this is yours.
Yes, and so this was a very sort of minor thing, but it made a big difference, really, I think, from the street as you pass this property. Before, it was just the left side window that was painted the trim in black or the whale gray, as was indicated on the resolution. Now they've done both, and it just really
It coordinates.
makes sense. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Yes, looks very nice. Yeah, it does look much better.
There are other parts of the building that they did not paint. They opted out of painting the trim, but I think really from the street view, it's uniform and it makes it much nicer.
All
So
right. Very good.
I
Where's our cheat
where's
sheet?
my sheet? I lost it.
Oh, I have one.
You
No.
have one? Oh, good. Okay. Thank you.
I think we're tired.
Yeah, we are.
I make a
long day.
motion to approve this application for a request for a certificate of occupancy and instruct staff to notify the building department that this application is ready for a certificate of occupancy.
Okay, we have a second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're good to go. Next up, the 51 South Edgemere LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-52-1-1.2 was withdrawn at the request of the applicant. NYC, next up, NYC New York Resort LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-6-4-9 was withdrawn administratively. And the last one is the Hermitage at Napeag, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 300-110-2-23. And Frank, that's yours.
Okay. Will, if you can pull up the photos as well as
Where are our resolutions?
I'll show you the
On the agenda to read from.
plans, July 15th, 21. Okay. This application came before the board on September 9th, 2021, and the ARB unanimously approved the following changes. Replacement of 4-bedroom windows with code compliant egress units to fit in the existing openings, and new windows were to match the existing windows in design and finish throughout the complex per the images and renderings provided. On my view, it seems the new units comply with what was submitted and approved by the ARB. I would not characterize this as these as matching the units exactly, but they appear to conform with what was submitted in spirit. So
Very nice. Well,
That's very
Well said.
very.
ceremonial. Okay, ma'am, you're making a motion, please.
okay, so photos, you can just zoom in, a few more there.
Nice.
So they're a little gray compared to the white ones, but they are what they are. And just for the record, we're not certifying that these are code compliant for egress, just for
Okay.
architectural.
Okay,
review.
good. I'm glad you pointed that out. That's an important.
I make a
distinction.
motion to approve this application for a request for a certificate of occupancy and instruct staff to notify the building department that this is ready for a certificate of occupancy.
Okay, may I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're passed and carried there. All right, now we are on to our resolutions, which our board members have read and signed. So did you sign these?
No, I haven't
You
signed.
haven't, okay. Springs Tavern and Grill, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-58-2-11.1. I'm trying to hand these to you in order. There's that one. And then the second one is Valerie Mnuchin, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300. It's incorrect.
Pantone.
Oh. Lowercase?
No, it just doesn't
It
indicate the
doesn't
color.
indicate the color. The coloring is Pantone and white. Okay, we
What
can't do
color
that one.
Pantone is it? So it's, well,
Okay,
that
that-
needs to be in it.
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
Sorry.
All right, so we're gonna have to
Missed
hold
my
that one.
message. It's fine.
Yep, that's all right. It was last minute.
Yep.
That's on us, really. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna have to hold on Springs Tavern and Grill, although we anticipate that will be no problem once we have the proper wording in the resolution, and that's my fault, really, so I apologize. Next up is Valerie Mnuchin, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-197-7-5. That was for the gate. Yeah. Can we get on that one, Winnie? Okay. Mary Jane's Real Estate is next. Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-163-7-22.23. And yeah, I don't think that this, graphic. We got the word graphic in
Yeah,
here, so
that's it.
that's works.
That's good.
Okay, and then Amagansett Square, Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-172-12-6. And then Turtle View. Suffolk County Tax Map number 300-159-1-18.31. Sorry to see those guys go. They were really fun to work with. Okay. Okay, then. I want to thank our trusty staff. I want to thank Nora Jacobs for filling in for Julie while she was away on her mercy mission. She did a great job. And I'm so happy to tell Julie she can go home and go to sleep now because she's been up for nearly 48 hours. And we appreciate her soldiering through here with us on a relatively long meeting. And thank Will and Eric and David and everybody for the support we have, and LTV for pulling this together at the last in a really kind of crazy way. So may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay.